everyone. We are back with the next episode of Marktalks, an initiative started by the Marketing Society of Shaheed Bhagat Singh College, University of Delhi. I'm Anshika Kakkar, a member of the Marketing Society, and I'm accompanied by Swarika Sembal. We will serve as the host for today's informative session. For this episode, we have with us Mr. Vineet Kumar, who is currently serving as the brand marketing manager at Gameskraft. He has experiences in various domains of marketing like brand marketing, growth marketing, category marketing, and product marketing. He specializes in B2B and B2C marketing with experiences across media and e commerce industries.
Greetings, sir. We are enthralled to have you today with us. We are really eager to engage in a stimulating conversation with such an inspiring individual. But before getting right to the important questions, we would really appreciate it if you could introduce yourself briefly.
Absolutely. And thanks, guys, for having me here for this session. Nothing is more encouraging than actually talking about your real world experience to the students and, basically tell them to not make mistakes of, what you have made in your career, especially in a domain such as, as wide open as marketing, right? So, hello, everyone. I'm Vineet. I'm brand marketing manager at Gameskraft. I have been in marketing for around 6 odd years. Before that, I was a software engineer for around 5 years. Um, I have worked across multiple domains as I was into media. I used to work for the company which used to give out TRPs for all the broadcasters in the country. It was a very interesting industry. Then I shifted to marketing, and then I have worked across B2B, B2C, e-commerce, and gaming. It's good to be here. Thank you, Anshika and Swarika, to have me here with you guys.
Thank you, sir. That was really interesting, especially the bit about the TRP.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, we'll begin with the interview now. Over to you, Swarika.
Thank you, Anshika. To start with the first question, so you have been a part of the corporate sector for the 12 years. How would
Yeah.
you describe your journey till now?
So to be honest, no journey is ever smooth, right? You start off as an engineer. In my case, I did. I was, as people these days say that I'm an accidental engineer. I didn't want to do engineering, but my family forced me to do it. It was not like that. I was fairly good at what I did. I was a software engineer. I used to code in Java. I used to work for this company called G Healthcare. So even in technical, I was in VLSI, and then I shifted to healthcare side of the business. Working there for around 5 years, the reason that I shifted to marketing was because I was really interested in it. It was not that I was disinterested in the tech that I was doing. And ever since I was an undergrad student, I used to be part of the quizzing circles. Which for which marketing is essentially the strongest thing. Every question revolves around marketing campaigns and the stories around the communication, and that stuck with me for a very long time, ever since 2007. So after 8 years, 4 years of engineering, around 4.5 years of work, I realized it's time for me to make the shift. And that's when I decided to move to marketing. Um, Marketing experience, again, have seen two recessions. The second one is still going on. Uh, and I have seen ups and downs in multiple industries I've worked in, B2B, B2C. I was at Amazon when COVID happened, and I've seen the growth the e-commerce industry saw right, in front of my eyes, and it was spectacular. Um, I joined gaming in the second lockdown, and again, with lockdown happening and people have nothing to do than to surf the internet and play games, I've seen the emergence of gaming as the next big thing. So I'm looking forward to talk about this in detail with further down the session.
Thank you, sir. That was really interesting to hear. So, like you mentioned, you were in Amazon before and then you switched to the gaming industry. So, how did you make the switch and why did you make the switch more specifically?
Absolutely. So at Amazon, I was a category marketing manager, wherein you do a lot of things to make your category grow, right? And within a particular ecosystem, such as Amazon, there are multiple categories, such as I was a part of Amazon Pay. There is Amazon Fashion, there is Amazon Mobiles, there is Amazon high purchase items such as bill pay and all of these categories, and you have to compete with them to make your category grow. Because there is a certain number of limitations on the visibility that every category has on the ecosystem, Amazon app, let's say, or website. and not every category can get the visibility, right? So there is a lot of competition within the Amazon itself, um, to how do you fight for a visibility, right? And when you get the visibility on these, when you open Amazon app, you see all the hero banners going on, right? The rotating ones. You see the four cards here and there, and when you get the visibility on these assets, how do you maximize the ROI, right? So there is a lot of strategy that goes behind everything that we do at Amazon, and it's that particular marketing is only limited to the Amazon ecosystem. While in gaming, it's everywhere. It's 360, right? We do influencer marketing, we do digital marketing, we do paid media campaigns, we do TV campaigns, we do digital heavy campaigns on all the OTTs, right? So a category marketing will teach you how to look at the numbers in a way that is expected your category to grow. That learning will be really handy if you work anywhere in any industry that you shift after an e-commerce, because an e-commerce industry will make you look at the numbers in a very different way, and that's what's inspired me to look at gaming, because that was the upcoming thing at that point of time. And at some point of time, every engineering grad is a gamer. So yeah, so that kind of made me shift to gaming.
So that was really inspiring. So, since you have been well versed about the field of marketing, what is your perspective on marketing and how would you describe marketing?
Okay. Uh, so I have a very interesting take on what is marketing, right? And this is something that is true in every facet of life and has been stuck with me ever since I first saw my first marketing campaign. As a marketer, um, let's say you meet a friend of yours and you have to convince him or her to go out, right? How do you convince him or her, right? You tell why we should be going out, right? That's marketing right there. When your mother cooks tinda in your household and tells you, why you should be eating tinda, hey, that's proper communication, content marketing. So everywhere in your daily life, anything that you do is marketing, right? And I firmly believe when I say this that no other domain is as big a part of your life as marketing. You see an ad campaign, you get convinced or don't get convinced, but that's marketing right there. Uh, Teacher doing it, asking you to do your homework. Hey, that's marketing, because ultimately that's what you have to do, right? Um, and marketing is ever evolving, right? Depending on the industry or domain, the TG changes, right? The pattern on how the TG that you're the target group that you're targeting, the communication or the campaign keeps changing. So you have to be very well versed with what your, let's say, audience looks like, right? Till 2017, 2018, 2019, everything was normal. Suddenly, oh sorry, till 2015, 2016, everything was normal, and then Geo came in, right? And the internet consumption increased by multifolds. That opened up avenues for multiple industries and multiple companies to come up. And with that, the storytelling got to a completely different level, right? Earlier also, the people used to make long form ads and then they used to run smaller ads on the TVs. But with Geo coming in, people started pushing long form ads on every platform and people used to really consume it. So you have to just identify the behavior, and you should be knowing what your audience is doing at all times, uh, because that's what will make you a good marketer. As long and when you say marketing, everyone knows 4 Ps, right? 4 Ps also is ever evolving. You have to be on your toes to understand what is happening. So and that's why moment marketing is actually a big thing in the industry right now, right? An event happens, multi brands come in onto Twitter, Instagram, and make use of that, because people are going to be on that particular platform looking at that particular communication. So you have to be very aware of what is happening around you, what is happening around your audience, and this is where you reach your audience in a very contextual way about what is that you are approaching them with, and why should they be interested in what you are telling them about, right? Whether it's a product or a service. Why? मतलब, what is I what am I getting out of looking at your communication on a particular platform, where I'm targeted with your ad, or any video or a static post? Why should I be interested in? So marketing is nothing but reaching, and marketing is nothing but knowing your audience, what they are doing, what is happening around you, and why should they be interested in what you're telling them about.
Thank you, sir. You put forward a very interesting approach of marketing, and this was very different from all the conventional definitions that we read about.
Yeah, life teaches you, things that
Definitely. So, moving on, so you worked in numerous subdomains of marketing, such as product, brand, category, and growth. So, can you tell us briefly about each one of these?
absolutely. I'll first start with the media background that I had, because that's what is not good in that question. So right out of my MBA of Micah Ahmedabad, I joined this company called BARC India, which is Broadcast Audience Research Council, which is the only organization in the country to give out TRPs, and that makes it the kind of currency in the TRP industry. Um, and that's where I started to look at numbers, because ultimately TRP is all just numbers, and that's where you realize how important numbers become for you as a marketer. Because realize, let's say you are a Star Channel or a Sony or a Z. Um, if I mess up the numbers even by one TRP, many people lose their jobs in the company, because that's what is getting them revenue, right? And that's how critical numbers are, not just in media, but in every domain of the industry that you work for. So in Bark, I understood the importance of numbers and how critical it is for them, and for us to consider it as a sacred thing that we should be very careful and very, very particular about, right? And that's when I shifted to B2B marketing. Now B2B is a very interesting field, if you have got the patience for it. I didn't, so I moved on. To talk more about a B2B marketing industry. You join a services company, let's say, or any product company, which is a very high value ticket item, right? Let's say real estate or a software company. Yeah. For a marketer to run the ads on a particular geography, on a particular audience, to get marketing leads. Now, when you get the marketing leads, hey, I'm interested in your service, right? You run a campaign with a lead generation form. You target the audience in such a way that you know that this audience where I'm, to whom I'm targeting my ads will actually convert, when I get their leads. Now, this particular audience will fill in their leads, if even if the ad is a slightly bit relevant for them. Now, these leads will go to the sales folks. Now, the sales folks will actually try to understand, by calling them up or reaching them out in certain way, if they're actually relevant or not. So there are two levels of qualifications that happens in this marketing. B2B marketing, when you run a marketing campaign, you generate marketing qualified leads that you think is very marketing qualified. And then sales folks, selects a few leads saying this is sales qualified, right? And this is where, as a marketer, you know how effective your campaigns are, because for you the end goal as a marketer is for the company to make revenue, right? It's not just the campaign numbers that you look at. It's also how many people who generate leads from your ads are actually coming on board for the service that you're providing, right? So this entire cycle takes a long time. If I run a campaign today, I'll have to wait at least few days or few weeks in certain cases to understand, hey, the campaign that I'm running is not generating good leads, and I need to go back to the drawing board, understand my audience a little better, target my campaigns in such a way that I'm reaching out to a slightly more better audience, in a contextual way, right? For any, let's say, lead generation campaigns, we can use any platform, but in my experience, I used to work for a software company in Hyderabad, called Value Labs. Now we used to, when you are selling a software service per se, it becomes very professional centric targeting, right? And that's where we used to use Twitter and LinkedIn, and a very small aspect of Facebook at that point. But again, depends on which industry you are in, and platforms keep varying depending on the industry that this company operates in. So this was a B2B experience for me, right? And I realized that if I have to understand how my campaign is doing, from a numbers perspective, from a performance perspective, okay, numbers I'm getting every day, right? But what's the use if they don't actually generate revenue for the company? And it used to, the feedback cycle for your marketing campaigns used to be very long, right? And nothing could be ever faster than an e-commerce, and that's when I shifted to Amazon, right? You run a campaign in the morning. By next morning, your performance is clear. Hey, my campaign's messed up. I need to change whether the creative, whether the communication, whether the targeting, because ultimately every piece of communication that you put on any platform is costing money, right? And at the because it's a to be very honest, marketing is a cost center for any organization, and for any company to cut costs, a marketing team should reduce marketing spends in an optimized way and generate more revenue for the company. And that's why it becomes very critical for your marketing campaigns to target a very relevant target audience with a very precise communication and creative. Because ultimately, when you reach out to any audience, even when you see Facebook or Instagram ads, you don't read the caption in the first go. You see the creative, whether it's a static or a video. And then when you try to understand what exactly is this ad all about, and then you read the caption, right? So it's creative, copy, and then targeting, right? These three, it's CCT. That's what I call. And this is very critical because uh, this is what will actually tell you how your campaign is performing. Even let's say with a gap of, let's say, 4 or 5 hours, right? If my campaign is generating enough good CTRs. Now CTR, I am pretty sure that you guys know all your basics and everything. CTR is the first metric that tells you your ad is doing okay, ad is doing good, or ad is doing bad. If CTRs are bad, hey, your creative is non-contextual, copy is way off, or your targeting is completely irrelevant, right? And that's where you need to go back to the drawing board and understand what exactly you are doing, what is the end objective, and maybe you should rethink things when it comes to the three: creative, copy, and targeting, right? And when all the three things are in place, that's the best situation, because then your campaigns are running really well. You are generating numbers, everyone is happy, you're happy, you get your appraisal.
Amazing words, sir. So, what according to you are the key differences between B2B and B2C marketing?
So there are, again, I think I covered a part of this in my previous response as well.
Hi.
For a B2B industry, the turnaround time or the feedback time as a marketer is pretty long. And even as a company, right, you are spending money every day that you're running the campaign for. And if it takes you 2 weeks to understand, hey, the campaign that I started 2 weeks ago is not doing well, it's costing money. So the turnaround time, both for both the marketing team and as a marketer personally, is pretty long. Again, the second thing is platform. It has to be very platform centric, depending on the industry that you guys operate in. For an e-commerce company, chances are very less that you will actually go and advertise on LinkedIn, right? Because this is where the paying audience is technically, and that's why it costs more than any other platform out there. Uh, and you need to understand where your audience is, and that's where in both B2B, B2C, you choose your platform, or the social media platform, or any kind of platform that you run the ads on very carefully, to understand where your audience might be. um, and the numbers that you generate for a B2B campaign is, again, just as we're talking about marketing qualified lead and sales qualified lead. In B2C, you don't have to go through all these cycles for a conversion to happen. B2C is directly a convert or not, right? If at any point of consumer journey, consumer is dropping off in the B2C industry, you get to know that, hey, my ad was really good. People clicked on it. CTRs were really high. People came onto the landing page, but they didn't buy, right? So my ad was good, but my landing page was not correct, right? Maybe I didn't have good information on the landing page. right? So this is something that I hope, this is something that is very common between B2B and B2C as well, because if people come on, clicks on your ad, they come onto the landing page, they don't fill the form, there's something wrong on the landing page, right? So the commonality is the content on the landing page, which actually asks for the user to convert either as a lead or as a customer in a B2B or in a B2C industry. um, yeah, I think I covered what's the difference and what's the similarity between both B2B and B2C.
So, personally, which one of the two intrigues you more?
Oh, a B2C, absolutely. Anything that is customer first, and anything that is not generating a lead works for me, because I get to know the numbers in a day. It's much faster turnaround time for me to understand how am I doing and what changes I need to make it perform really better, and ultimately saving time and money and cost. Yeah, time and money.
So, sir, having worked for both MNCs like Amazon as well as startups,
Yeah.
which one of the two is more challenging to develop a marketing strategy for?
Absolutely. So see, there can be multiple opinions and takes about this particular question, but I'll tell you about how I feel. In a B2B setup, or not in a B2B setup, sorry, in an e-commerce setup, right? You have to fight with multiple categories within the ecosystem to fight, to get your visibility. And at the same time, you also integrate your category with multiple categories, right? Many a times you would have seen that buy an Amazon fashion, pay with Amazon Pay, and get this much cashback or some percent discount. So this is nothing but a clear example of how two categories are integrating on the ecosystem for both of them to have incremental transactions. Right? People will buy actually Amazon fashion using Amazon Pay, so it's both the categories working together to generate numbers. Um, while this is a and this is what happens across any e-commerce company that is out there, uh, but for a startup, right, you have to think from every platform perspective, and that's where strategy becomes really important. I'm not saying that for an yeah, e-commerce marketing you don't need strategy. Strategy is very focused on the Amazon ecosystem, right? Or in e-commerce ecosystem, because that's where you have a certain audience, and you uh, and within few assets that you have, whether it's a landing page or a banner or four cards or anything that multiple companies how they do, let's say Flipkart, Amazon, Tata Click, any of these companies, they have certain inventories on the ecosystem, and how they use that to reach to the audience on their ecosystem. But for a startup, right, growth is the only thing that will actually keep you afloat. And how do you get growth faster is how you want to how fast you want to get your company. Actually confused in all these answers that I'm getting. So yeah, and in a gaming setup, you talked about gaming, right? In a gaming setup, for a startup, it's very important for you to grow incrementally and exponentially day in day out. um, and it's not limited to one particular ecosystem, right? So you have to look at various platforms. As I said, for a startup to acquire users, we do a lot of things. We do digital marketing, paid campaigns. We do content integrations with YouTube creators on YouTube. We work with creators such as TVF, RVCJ, Binge, and all of these platforms, and these gives us good brand awareness among the audience that we are trying to reach out to. We do influencer marketing. We do multiple partnerships with multiple companies, such as Phone Pay, Google Pay. Let's say you make a transaction, you get a voucher, right? Phone Pay or Google Pay gives you a voucher. So it can be that as well, right? Because these are incremental things that you do apart from what the conventional things that you're doing, which is digital marketing, right? And social media marketing. So you have to go above and beyond the conventional way to do things. Try to understand where your audience really is, because in an e-commerce system, the audience is going to come to you. You just have to find them. In a startup, you have to reach out to your audience to make them aware about who you are, what you do, and why are you reaching out to them, and what is that they are getting out of seeing your ad, and what they will be getting out of your service or a product when they start using it, right? I work for a real money gaming company, and as a brand manager, I handle three Rummy brands, which is Rummy Culture, Rummy Time, and Playship. All of these are Rummy games. Uh, I know the geographies that my audience lies in, but when you start running campaigns day in day out to the same audience, there is a creative fatigue that comes into place. Again, this is a very important thing that happens in the field of marketing. If you keep using the same copy, the same creative, the same targeting, eventually they'll grow out of it because it's the same thing they are saying day in day out. How you the very first thing that you should be doing after a certain number of days is complete creative refresh in terms of copy and the creative, so that hey, it's 10 days, I'm seeing the same ad. 11th day, hey, it's something new, right? So this is one aspect. In a startup, you need to reach out to your audience, create value for them. Now, this is where the content becomes very important. Now, content in itself is a very critical aspect when it comes to marketing. And in e-commerce, you know what kind of content generally works. There's certain trick to it. You know, give incentives, integrate with another category, and this is what are the major flavors of an e-commerce industry. But for a startup, you have to understand which geography you are reaching out to, what kind of communication works in those geographies, right? Uh, if I should run incentive driven copy or a creative, or should I write about the USPs and the benefits of my product, or should I be talking about how safe and secure my product is, right? So you have to understand your product in a very detailed way to have a clarity on what would work really well in these markets that you're trying to reach out to your audience. So this is where the major difference between the e-commerce and the startup comes into the picture.
So that was some great words.
I mean,
So
in this long response, I might have confused you with the responses, but I think I was clear
no,
in.
no, so that was very
It was
informative,
very
very
clear, sir.
informative. We got to learn a lot. So moving on with the next question. So MNCs having a huge marketing budget
Yeah,
usually bring in celebrities to market their products, which
correct.
induces the customers to purchase the product. How do you deal with this difficulty as a startup to stand out amongst the market top players and create a name for yourself?
So, okay, um, to answer this honestly, when you talk about big corporations having big budgets for a marketing campaign, for particular category, for some categories it might work flawlessly, right? For let's say an FMCG brand running ad campaign with a big Bollywood or regional celebrity, since these people are some are the folks that people look up to, and something that they reuse in a regular day-to-day life, this will work really well in terms of the numbers and the revenue, and whatever the goals of the campaigns are. For a startup, again, to go back to the drawing board and understand what is that you are looking out of a marketing campaign that you're running on. Ultimately, you have to make your business do well, and to make your business do well, you have to get people on board, right? So there is a lot of hit and try that happens when it comes to startup trying to come up with marketing campaigns. As Gamescraft, even we had big faces in the starting, but as we moved on, we moved further, we tried to understand what worked well, what didn't work well. There are some things that even the big corporations are doing right now as we speak, uh, and many other companies have started doing it already. Rather than putting big budgets on big stars on TV and digital, what they are doing right now is that they are trying to identify local celebrities in certain states, right? This might not be stars, right? And then reaching out to them to talk about the brand. Now, what they are doing here is the penetration. They are trying to reach out to more people with a very contextual communication in that particular language, right? So again, there is a certain level of credibility that comes into picture, the trust building, that hey, if this particular celebrity that I follow and look up to is telling me that I'm using this product, or I'm using this service in my own language, then hey, I should definitely be trying this. And at the big brands, they're still running, big celebrities, but they've also started doing the same thing, because pan India audience is actually looking at big marketing campaigns on TVs and everything, and that's where they are being covered, right? But the audience who are not, as I say, are not very TV focused. They are being reached out to through these macro channels and micro channels on these social media platforms, and that is something that startups are doing as well. Uh, at the same time, they are also, creating budget by optimizing the cost on a daily level to have a big face, which builds credibility, right? If I have a big, country known face, my credibility is made. So, right. But to build that trust and to reach out to audience on a micro level, on a ground level, I need to keep doing other things as well. Influencer marketing, right? You take very contextual, very relevant, very regional celebrity, not big faces in the state, right? Not stars. And from multiple domains, right? For one particular brand, lifestyle category might work, or a gaming industry. For a gaming industry, your automobiles and gamers might work. So depending on who you want to reach out to and what are they consuming on these particular platforms, you identify folks, you create communication around your brand, you create a story around your brand, be very sure of what you want to communicate, and reach out to them in the language they understand the best, right? So big corporations are spending money on TVs because, let's say, when you talk about a legacy brand for any FMCG company which has been there for a long time, a majority of their audience already are aware about the brand, but they have to, keep the awareness numbers up, and that's where the TV campaigns help really well, because for a legacy brand, the audience is still on the TV, right? But for any startups, where you know that your audience is 18 to 24 or 24 to 30, and you might not find them on TV these days, right? You want to move on to digital, right? For any particular, let's say, a sporting event is happening, you want to reach out to them on those platforms, OTTs, because you know that your audience is now not watching these things on television but are consuming content on OTT platforms. Or let's say integrate with a movie, right? Uh, or on any platform, right? So let's say a movie is released in the theaters, and then when it comes down to OTT, your ads start showing up. So this is how startups are actually making, kind of reaching out to the audience that they intend to, and generating good numbers for the business out of their campaigns.
So I had one question regarding this. So you mentioned that startups bring in local celebrities for, say, different states. So isn't that going to be more costly than bringing in just one, well-known face like Amitabh Bachchan, who the whole country knows, as opposed to like a local celebrity who's
Absolutely.
only familiar to, say, the Gen Z, and the millennials are not aware of that face?
Absolutely. Okay, so Anshika, how many will you follow on Instagram right now?
Uh,
Ballpark number.
I think 600-700.
600.
Yeah.
Out of them, how many are friends and how many of them are actually kind of influencers? Not very big names, but even then a little bit of.
At least I think 100 to 150 influencers.
That's a big number of influencers
Yeah.
to follow, right? Now let's take Amitabh Bachchan. Now, when he's talking about, let's say, uh, uh, let's say, any example of a startup company. Do you have anything, not a company name as per se, but do you want to take a particular industry or a product from a startup that you actually use? Let's say these days the tea and coffees are, reaching out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, let's say, and how much TV do you consume, Anshika?
Very minimal.
Very minimal, right?
Yeah.
So now, let's say when you take a face like Amitabh Bachchan, you run their campaigns across country. Will you connect more with a face like Amitabh Bachchan, or will you actually relate more? Being yourself as a 20, 21-year-old youngster with an influencer of someone your age that you have been following for quite a lot of time. You have seen very a lot of content that they create, right? So there is a relatability that comes into the picture. Amitabh Bachchan is a very credible face, is a very credible name when it comes to having him as a face of your brand, and that's a dream for every brand to have. But let's stick to reality. When you are unsure that, hey, I make a product or a brand, right, which people use, and my TG is, let's say, 24 to 40 or 24 to 30 or 24 to 35, depending on which industry you are in. For someone of age 24 to 30 or 18 to 24, Amitabh Bachchan might not be a very relatable face. And the more relatable face for them to actually connect to and maybe get convinced are the ones that they follow on these social media platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere, right? Where the person can be active on. And this is what is the difference between taking a big face and taking multiple small faces, but with a decent coverage in the geography that these guys operate in, right? And this will not be costly because these local influencers might not be that costly, right? When you talk about Amitabh Bachchan, hey, matlab, he's a big face, you know how much money is going to cost. But these people, influencers, you get them to create the content for you, organic reach, you push their videos on social media. uh, uh, this will save you money, and for some brands actually this will be a better ROI. But personally, I've seen that most of the brands who actually move on to the smaller regional influencers to penetrate their TG audience in a better way, to reach out to the TG audience in a better way, they start with having a big face so that they build the credibility and trust around the brand, right? Since this creates the awareness, and then they move on to the next logical step of reaching out to their audience in the place that where they are, by reaching out to them in their own language with a more relatable face. And this is where the complete marketing journey of the users follows through.
Right, that was a really interesting aspect. So, sir, in recent times, it has been noticed that marketing is becoming more about increasing your presence on social media and, increasing your reach, your views, the number of likes. And also, companies are moving to social media platforms to target their audience using various specialized tools.
Mhm.
So, how do you think this is impacting the product quality and the consumer base of the company?
Okay, so with okay, I have personal experience in this one. uh, you are, let's say, a brand in a particular domain or an industry. Nowadays it's very rare that will be the alone and that will be the single player in the domain industry that you operate in, right? There will be at least 5 or 10 other brands, which will be your competitor. Even in gaming, e-commerce, there is no dearth of companies out there, right? Let's say you chose a digital platform to run your ads on. Now this is a paid campaign I'm talking about, right? Right? You will generate engagement, you will generate clicks and everything till the time you're putting money on the ads. The day you stop putting money on the ads, your engagement is going to come down. The website visits, or the conversions will fall down, right? So this is where creating an organic impact on your brand, for your brand, becomes the most critical aspect for any brand out there or a product out there. And creating and having a presence on any social media platform, generating likes, comments, handles two things: increases the engagement, which ensures better visibility of your platform on any social media platform, thus leading to better engagement numbers and better awareness as well. So the better you engage with your audience on an organic level will help you in both engagement and awareness numbers. So the better your awareness is, the better organic conversions, organic visits starts increasing. So that's why most of the brands nowadays are, and I have been doing for a very long time, since last 40-50 years. They have been putting money on brand marketing, because even when they start cutting on digital ads, brand marketing and the awareness that they have generated in let's say in 1 or 2 years will actually make them follow through for the entire year. When you reach out to your audience on any platform, and it's pure organic, right? I'm talking about completely brand perspective. uh, when you run ads on TV, on digital, on social media, from a brand perspective, not not your performance campaigns. uh, how, let's say, if I have to take a certain example such as Zomato, right? uh, Last year, or I think last to last year, they advertised so heavily on YouTube. People flooded their Twitter handle saying, hey, now stop the ads, right? Now there are two ways to look at it. It's a positive or a negative. But if you're creating an ad which is very story centric, communication centric, about the brand, the USP, the benefits, and all of those things, and if you strategize your marketing plan in such a way that it reaches audience on a multi-platform level, and you have a good reach and engagement on these platforms, people will follow a spontaneous awareness about your brand, right? So let's say you are someone in the e-commerce. When they talk about e-commerce, hey, is this brand? Or when you ask them about, hey, which is the e-commerce industries or e-commerce companies that you know of, the first or second name that they will take will be yours. Same way into gaming as well, right? A lot of our campaigns and our competitors campaigns, we keep doing brand survey to understand what is the awareness numbers of these people that we're reaching out to are, right? When we talk about our games, right, let's say rummy games, do they take our names first or our competitors names first? So the better engagement that you create, the better awareness you make. And that will actually drive the numbers for your business for a longer duration. Now, what's the second part of the question that you asked?
Uh,
Right.
how is this impacting the product quality and the consumer base?
Right.
The focus on engagement
So,
and
I mean, this has got nothing to do with the product quality, but your
Mhm.
consumer base is ever increasing, right? You are experimenting on multiple platforms, whether it's a social media platform or a OTT platform or a TV or a radio or print, right? Your audience base is ever expanding. So you're reaching out to more people, leading to more awareness about the brand that you're trying to market. So I think it's a win-win for the brand, because ultimately you are trying to expand your audience, you're expanding your awareness numbers, you're trying to expand your engagement, and that's why it's necessary for every brand out there to have a social media presence, create engagement among the audience organically. Uh, if I am not able to recollect any brand which has not done this, but if there is a brand out there, even if that has been there for let's say 20 to 30 years, and they have not done social for a long time, people have actually forgotten about the brand, or have,
Mm,
the awareness numbers has gone down considerably, right? The thing is, you have to evolve. Kodak didn't evolve, it died down, right? Nokia didn't evolve at the same time when the Android was coming up. It moved on later
mm,
to the Android stage, and that's why the numbers are nowhere near when it comes to the penetration of a brand like Samsung or Apple compared to Nokia, right? So yeah, that's the thing.
True, so we have seen Zomato and Swiggy's also marketing a
Yeah,
lot. So moving on, marketing analytics is suggested to be a practical guide to strategic decision making. Considering your expertise in the area, could you tell us more about it and what all it takes to be a good market analyst?
absolutely. So when I was in the media field, I was a part of the marketing analytics team. And as a part of the marketing analytics team, or as a marketing analyst, it is, the number is sacrosanct, right? That is the god and the devil, right? There is no other thing out there in the world. um, because everything about that particular number tells you how a particular channel or a brand, in terms of, let's say, a brand or a product, is doing, right? If my numbers tell me that, hey, people are downloading the app or coming to a website, but the retention level, right, they're not registering, so there is something wrong with the consumer journey, right? So a first part of marketing analytics is to break down the user journey into multiple aspects, right? Let's say for an app, you download the app, and then there is registration. Then there is registration. In some apps, they have KYC, right? Like Paytm and all of those things. After KYC, let's say you have to put money on the app. So how many people actually downloaded the app? From that number to registrations. from registrations to KYC, from KYC to putting money on the app, and then using that particular app as a instrument, as a payment instrument, right? When I take the example of, let's say, Paytm here, all of these insights will be, will become clear only through marketing analytics, trying to understand the consumer journey. How many people are actually, let's say 100 people came onto the downloads page, they downloaded, but only 40 registered, right? What is that is actually causing people not to register, right? Where is the 60% drop off happening, right? And then you go back to your teams and discuss this with them that, hey, there is a 60% drop off in downloads to registrations, right? Again, from 40, only 15 did the KYC. Why such a big drop off, right? And this becomes clear only through marketing analytics, right? And let's say some people are fraud as well, right? When a new service or the product is launched in the market, they give incentives, so people make multiple accounts in a particular platform or an app to generate money around it. This is also being identified through marketing analytics about, where the money is leaking, where the cash is leaking, right? Because ultimately, the primary objective is to generate money, not to leak money, right? Which is not generating any returns for you, right? And this is why marketing analytics is very essential to understand about your brand, about your product from a numbers perspective, because communication will tell the end user the story about your brand or product. Numbers will tell you the story about the brand or the product. And that is why in marketing, numbers are the only god.
So before heading on to our last question, I just came with the question following to our discussion. I'm curious to know about, like you talked about, having a good social media presence is really important these days. Can you tell us about meme marketing?
Oh, definitely. We have done that. We have done that. And then if you, follow multiple channels on Twitter or Instagram these days, you would have realized that any new OTT release for any web series, doesn't matter how big the faces or how small the faces are, the production house actually reach out to these handles to make memes for them to create maximum engagement for them. And these meme channels that we talk about right now have one of the highest engagement rates in the country on Instagram, right? And almost all the meme channels that I have seen on Instagram have a following of more than 3 million, 2 million, 5 million, 7 million, 8 million, and so on, right? And with the highest engagement rate of, let's say, 10%, 20%, whereas a normal handle would have 2%, right? Imagine the kind of audience that you're reaching out to, right? If your objective is purely awareness, meme marketing is something that has been that has worked for multiple brands in the past, and that's why the brands are still doing it. The Not just brands and the products, any movie release, OTT release, all of them are doing it. So meme marketing is a very innovative way to reach out to audience, but don't look at meme marketing to generate conversions, right? It's to make people aware about your brand or a product or movie or a web series. So they will help increase your awareness numbers. Let's say a particular OTT is released, OTT show is released on a particular channel, let's say Sony Live or Z5, which wherever, and they went with 5 meme channels to advertise on. Now, out of one scroll, two scrolls, three scrolls, you'll see at least 10 native posts about these particular web series, and that will actually intrigue you. Hey, should I be watching this instead of scrolling the Instagram right now, right? So, depending on the industry or domain, it actually works, and that has worked for us in the past as well.
Thank you, sir. Really interesting to hear that. So, do you have any advice that you would like to give to our audience who will be entering the corporate world soon? And anything in particular that they should aim for in their starting phase of work experience?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, So one advice that I actually, give to people I talk about marketing is be very sure why you want to enter the field of marketing, right? Let's say you're an engineer, you code in C++ or C or Java, wherever. That is your entire world. This is your C++, Java world, and where you code. Marketing, there are no boundaries, right? It's a very wide open thing that people do. for their brands or products or any companies that they work for. And you have to be on your toes always, right? Weekends, weekdays, doesn't matter. uh, what is working, what is not working, how a campaign is doing. You have to be very clear on why you want to be a marketer. Can you communicate your things clearly in a very succinct and precise way for people to understand what is that you are telling them? If you're not clear in communication, you cannot be a good marketer, right? You can learn some skills, but some skills have to be innate to understand what the end user will get out of your communication, right? And what works best. So there are some things that people are good at. There's some other things that people are good at, right? And that's where it becomes very essential for someone to identify in which field they are good at, right? If they're very good in communication, not in terms of spoken, right? But even in writing or communicating the idea, it has to be very clear to the end user, because that's where you succeed as a marketer if the end user understands your communication, right? You have to be very clear when you're dealing with the design teams, because they are the ones who will translating your brief, your communication into creatives, right? If you're not clear on why you are doing it, what is the objective that this is going to solve, what is the outcome of this particular campaign, the creative team or the design team will not be able to translate your brief into something that will be tangible, or that will generate good results for you, right? You have to be very sure on why you want to be a marketer. And once you become a marketer, go crazy, experiment, because there are no right and wrongs. Oh, there are certain wrongs in the marketing field. Don't be unethical about it. Don't advertise something falsely, which is not true. But within the guidelines of the marketing domain, um, experiment, because that's when you learn what things works best for your brand or your product or your company. Uh, and then keep experimenting. And when you find the right fit with the right cost and the right audience and everything, that's your way.
Thank you, sir, for taking out your time from your hectic schedule. We are indeed grateful to have you as our guest for today, and we hope our viewers will enjoy the interview as much as we have and believe that it served the very purpose of Mark Talk, as we were able to insight from the man himself who has seen it all and done it all.
uh, that's a lot of words, but thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was absolutely it was an absolute pleasure for me to be here and talk about my experience, because there's so many things we have done in the past, and there's so many things that I'm still yet to do, right? And as and when I move forward, I want to make people, want to tell people about the rights and wrongs of the things where I have failed. And that's why I actually, when Anshika reached out to me, I said yes in one go, because it's something really interesting for me to actually tell people about.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
So we
sir.
learned a lot today. We learned a lot from
Thank
you
you.
today.
Thank you so much.